SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
The Minnesota Vikings have several shocking decisions ahead. 3 established players could be released to create more than $12 million in salary cap space, including a veteran offensive player few fans expected to see in danger. Meanwhile, Brian Flores has major plans for Dallas Turner, while another promising defender has suddenly emerged as a potential cut candidate. And behind the scenes, reports of growing trade interest are pushing McCarthy closer to the end of his time in Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings could create more than $12.5 million in additional salary cap space by releasing 3 established players before Sunday's roster deadline. According to SpotTrack, Minnesota currently has slightly more than $22.2 million available, but general manager Nolan Teasley may want even greater flexibility entering the regular season. The first surprising name is linebacker Ivan Pace Jr., who lost his starting position to Eric Wilson last season and has struggled to separate himself during training camp. Pace entered the offseason hoping to remain as a backup, but Jacob Roberts has built momentum through strong practices and preseason performances. Choosing the younger linebacker could save Minnesota approximately $3.52 million, while creating an opportunity for Roberts to continue developing. The biggest possible decision involves Aaron Jones. The veteran running back already accepted a pay cut earlier in the offseason, suggesting that his position on the roster was never completely secure. Jones remains a dependable all-around player and an effective receiver out of the backfield, but he is 31 years old and has dealt with injuries during recent seasons. Releasing him would save approximately $5.21 million and allow the Vikings to build their backfield around Jordan Mason, Xavier Scott, and rookie DeMond Claiborne. That would represent a significant gamble, because Jones provides experience and passing down reliability that the younger options have not consistently demonstrated. The third potential cut is starting center Blake Brandel. Minnesota has experienced problems with the quarterback-center exchange during training camp, and uncertainty remains about whether Brandel should start in Week 1. The Vikings also lack proven depth behind him, making the position especially concerning before the regular season opener. If Minnesota signs a free agent or trades for a more dependable center, Brandel could become expendable and provide another $3.8 million in savings. Together, the 3 moves would create approximately $12.53 million in additional flexibility. Cap savings alone will not determine these decisions, because Minnesota must also consider leadership, roster depth, and the difficulty of finding reliable replacements this late in the offseason. Cutting Jones would weaken the backfield's experience. Moving on from Pace could reduce linebacker depth, and releasing Brandel without securing an upgrade could make the offensive line even more vulnerable. Still, the approaching 53-man deadline forces the Vikings to decide whether established names are worth their current cost or whether younger, less expensive players can provide enough production. Minnesota has made unexpected cuts before, and these 3 veterans now face increasing pressure as Teasley evaluates every possible way to strengthen the roster and preserve financial flexibility. Dallas Turner's impressive training camp suggests that the Minnesota Vikings' major investment in him may finally produce the expected return. Minnesota made an aggressive move to acquire the 17th overall selection in the 2024 National Football League draft, sending Jacksonville the 23rd overall pick, the 167th selection, and 3rd and 4th round choices in the following draft. Jacksonville used the first-round pick to select wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr., creating a trade that could ultimately benefit both organizations if Turner continues developing into an elite defender. Dave Campbell of the Associated Press reported that Turner's performance this summer, combined with his strong finish last season, has demonstrated why Kevin O'Connell was so excited to acquire him. Campbell added that the Vikings have a major defensive role waiting for the third-year edge rusher and are eager to see what he can do with the opportunity. Turner already provided strong evidence of his disruptive potential during the previous season. He recorded 31 combined tackles, 8 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles across 17 games. His 4 forced fumbles tied for the league lead, while Pro Football Focus credited him with 42 total pressures, including 27 hurries and 6 quarterback hits. Those numbers represented a major step forward after Turner spent much of his rookie season adjusting to the professional level. His development has continued throughout training camp, where he has looked more confident, technically refined, and capable of becoming a defensive leader. During Minnesota's joint practices with the Baltimore Ravens, Turner consistently created pressure and won difficult matchups against veteran left tackle Ronnie Stanley. His work also earned strong praise from Christian Darrisaw, who told reporters that Turner is going to be extremely special in the league. Minnesota already produced 49 sacks last season, tying Detroit for fourth in the National Football League. So Turner does not have to rescue an ineffective pass rush. Instead, his continued improvement could transform an already dangerous unit into one of the most intimidating defensive fronts in football. Brian Flores can use Turner's explosiveness and growing versatility to create pressure from different alignments, force opposing offenses to adjust their protection plans, and generate opportunities for the other defenders around him. Training camp production cannot guarantee regular season success, but Turner is showing a clear pattern of improvement rather than relying on one isolated performance. The Vikings sacrificed significant draft capital because they believed he possessed the physical ability to become a foundational defensive player. If Turner improves even slightly upon last year's production while handling a larger role, Minnesota's defense could become considerably more disruptive, and the controversial trade that brought him to the Vikings may begin to look like a winning decision for both teams. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins entered the offseason as a promising candidate for an expanded role in Brian Flores' defense, but one recent projection surprisingly identified the second-year defensive lineman as a possible roster cut. Trevor Ripley of Vikings on Sports Illustrated placed Ingram-Dawkins among Minnesota's unexpected cut candidates before the final preseason game against the Denver Broncos. Ripley argued that Dallas Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel are already established as the Vikings' leading-edge defenders, while rookie Jake Golday has impressed enough to strengthen his own position. Minnesota may still need another experienced pass rusher behind that group, and Ingram-Dawkins has operated more as a versatile defensive piece than as a specialist at any single position. That flexibility can be extremely valuable in Flores' system, but it can also create uncertainty if the coaching staff decides it needs a reserve with a more traditional edge-rushing background. Hybrid defenders are sometimes labeled as players without the ideal size or complete skill set for one permanent role. That criticism does not always reflect their actual value, particularly when an imaginative defensive coordinator understands how to create favorable assignments for them. Flores may be the ideal coach to unlock Ingram-Dawkins' potential because Minnesota's aggressive defense regularly moves players across the formation and disguises where pressure will originate. Ingram-Dawkins could line up on the edge during early downs to help keep Turner and Van Ginkel fresh before shifting inside in passing situations. Minnesota's lack of a proven third edge rusher could make that versatility especially important. Flores also expressed considerable confidence in the 23-year-old defender while speaking with reporters. He praised Ingram-Dawkins' focus, attention to detail and urgency, regardless of whether he plays outside or along the interior. Flores believes the young defender has made a significant professional leap from his first season to his second, and added that his performance on the field has also been very good. The Vikings have placed multiple responsibilities on his shoulders, and Flores said he has executed them at a strong level. Those comments make an actual release appear unlikely, but his defensive role could still change if Minnesota adds another pass rusher. Veteran free agents Leonard Floyd and Kyle Van Noy were recently identified as potential fits for the Vikings, and signing either player would immediately create more competition. Ingram-Dawkins could then fall down the edge rusher depth chart and become primarily an interior rotational defender. That would limit his opportunities and potentially prevent him from reaching his developmental ceiling. Flores' praise and Minnesota's investment in the former fifth-round selection suggest that his roster position remains relatively secure. But the possibility of another veteran addition means his situation cannot be completely ignored. The final construction of the defensive front will determine whether Ingram-Dawkins receives a meaningful role or becomes the victim of a late and unexpected roster decision. McCarthy's future with the Minnesota Vikings has become even more uncertain after a new report revealed that other teams have already contacted the organization about the former first-round quarterback. Benjamin Albright of KOA reported on August 27th that McCarthy is among several quarterbacks who have generated trade inquiries, along with Tua Tagovailoa, Dylan Gabriel, and Anthony Richardson. Albright emphasized that the level of interest varies between the players, so the report does not confirm that Minnesota is actively negotiating a deal or preparing to move McCarthy. Still, the presence of outside calls is significant because the Vikings must reduce their roster to 53 players by August 30th, while quarterback-needy teams are evaluating their backup situations after the preseason. McCarthy started for Minnesota last season and played 310 passing snaps, earning a 61.8 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. He threw for 1,632 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, while producing 19 big-time throws and 15 turnover-worthy plays. Those numbers showed occasional promise, but also reflected the inconsistency that has followed him throughout his early professional career. His situation became more difficult after Minnesota named Kyler Murray the starter, and Carson Wentz appeared to take control of the backup competition. Alec Lewis of The Athletic said his expectation, based on conversations and what he has observed, is that Wentz will serve as the Vikings' second quarterback. That would push McCarthy to third-string quarterback and raise an important question about whether he is willing to accept a third-string role after once being viewed as Minnesota's future starter. If McCarthy is unhappy with that position, the Vikings may need to determine whether their relationship has reached the end. Former National Football League player Bryant McFadden also questioned whether Minnesota would retain McCarthy following a demotion. McFadden pointed to the considerable separation between Wentz and McCarthy in completion percentage, passing production, touchdowns, and passer rating during the preseason. Wentz has used his veteran experience to operate the offense more efficiently, while McCarthy has failed to take full advantage of his opportunities. The young quarterback still has one final preseason game to change the conversation, making that appearance particularly important for his immediate future. Minnesota invested a first-round selection in McCarthy and would be admitting that its original development plan failed if it traded him after such limited experience. However, keeping him as third-string quarterback could create an uncomfortable situation while potentially reducing his trade value even further. A team searching for a younger quarterback with developmental upside may prefer to act before Week 1, but the Vikings would still need an acceptable return before surrendering a player they once expected to lead the franchise. No outcome is guaranteed, and McCarthy's final preseason performance, his willingness to accept a reduced role, and the seriousness of the reported outside interest will determine whether he remains in Minnesota or receives the fresh start that several analysts believe he may ultimately need. The Vikings now face several difficult decisions before completing their 53-man roster. Ivan Pace Jr., Aaron Jones, and Blake Brandel could generate major cap savings, while Dallas Turner appears ready to become one of Brian Flores' most important defenders. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins remains an intriguing developmental piece despite an unexpected cut projection, and trade inquiries have made J.J. McCarthy's future even more uncertain. Should Minnesota trade McCarthy if Carson Wentz becomes the backup quarterback, and would cutting Aaron Jones be a smart financial decision or a dangerous mistake? Leave your opinion in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for the next Minnesota Vikings update. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!